Hey, what's going on, guys? It is VengeanceHD here today, and we're doing the Sheriff's Office podcast, episode 3. I'm a little bit excited. Monday Night Raw just went off the air. We got a couple new inside looks as to how the card of Night of Champions is going to look, and we also got a little bit of storyline development for a few different feuds going on. But today we are joined by a special guest, and it is G from, if you watched on this channel, the awesome Madden 16 pack opening. It is G. He is back with us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic. So we started off tonight with Sting, which you told me before the show went on that you thought Sting was going to open, and I was like, I didn't even think it was going to happen, really. What made you think that Sting was going to open the show?
I mean, because he didn't talk. Last week you had him come back, and you had the backstage network thing where Triple H and Seth Rollins were talking about it, but Sting didn't really get to say what he thought.
Yeah, that does make sense because you always need to hear both sides of every story.
Right.
I mean, I like this Sting as kind of a combination between the Sting of WCW and the Sting of TNA, where he's still the stoic, brooding crow Sting, but he's got the vocal side that he showed in TNA.
Yeah, I think that's really beneficial because he's so good on the mic.
Yeah, and I think that when you look at it too, he's got a lot of that, the vibrance in his promos that he had from back in WCW when he was the Surfer Sting. And I just enjoy listening to his promo tonight as he opened up Raw. He was talking about how Seth Rollins is good, but he's not exactly a Triple H, which that leads you to think that they're going in the direction of the Seth Rollins Triple H match. And, I mean, they set the foundation for that up all night long, with different backstage segments with Stephanie McMahon and even an in-ring segment, though, to close the show.
Yeah. Well, what surprised me is that we didn't hear from Triple H.
Yeah, he wasn't even on the show at all.
Yeah, I thought we would hear something that, maybe, he comes out doing the in-ring segment and says, Seth, I will always be the man, no question about it. Maybe they're saving it for, Night of Champions or something, or the night after Night of Champions.
Yeah, I feel like it would be after Night of Champions because Rollins has already got a pretty busy night. He has to worry about Sting. And the next segment here was Seth Rollins backstage with Stephanie McMahon, and Stephanie McMahon agreed with Sting that Rollins is not even half the man that Triple H is. And Rollins asked Stephanie McMahon where his statue is, and then Stephanie, very billion-dollar princess-like, told Rollins to go and find Sting to ask him. And Rollins had an absolutely disgusted look on his face. This is perfect. And he just kind of stormed out of the office. And then we ended up getting the introduction to a Dolph Ziggler and Rusev match. And when I saw this, I was like, again? Come on, man.
I mean, they do have somewhat different endings every time, so, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and they did give us a false finish about, I would say, near the end tail of the match. And they had Rusev and Ziggler out on the outside. And they got up to about a 7 count, and then they just rolled back in the ring. I was like, don't do it again.
Yeah. I was really hoping they didn't screw us over again with that.
Yeah, Rusev got in the ring first, so I thought maybe that they were going to give that one to Rusev, and then they were going to do it again, but this time, or the next time with Ziggler going over, but whatever. The ending came as Dolph hit a zigzag on Rusev, and Summer Rae came in and started assaulting Dolph Ziggler. Looked like some awkward rape, but Lana came in and her skirt flew all the way up, and I was actually kind of excited by this, and I was told to keep my testosterone in my pants, which I could not do. Ziggler wins via DQ, and then, that was what it was. I thought it was all right for storyline progression. I don't know, what did you think about that?
I mean, I like everybody involved in the storyline, except for some reason the storyline isn't working for me.
Yeah, I think they're leaning too much on the love aspect of it. I don't think that that's working at all.
Right, they should have had this mixed tag at SummerSlam.
Yeah, I feel like it would have been better, but having Ziggler go to film that movie, have we even heard anything about whatever movie he's working on?
I have not personally, no.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit weird, but we had a beat the clock challenge. and this was announced earlier in the week that the fastest member of Team PCB to win their match would get a shot against Nikki Bella for the Divas title. We opened up with Becky Lynch and Alicia Fox, and it was what it was. Solid Divas match. Becky beats Alicia with an armbar, clocking in at a time of 3:21. Now, personally, I didn't even care for this match because I wasn't even here. I was out. I had to run a few errands and do some things. But, it was what it was. Ryback and Big Show. Ryback finished Big Show with a shell-shocked. This match was for the Intercontinental title, as I failed to mention. I think that it's unique that they went with the Big Show and Ryback thing so early.
I like that because now I think they're going to go with Miz and Ryback at the pay-per-view. And I think that would be 10 times better any day of the week than Ryback and Big Show.
Yeah, do you think that by any stretch of the imagination they would put the belt back on Miz?
At SummerSlam, I thought he was going to win it when he hit Ryback with the skull-crushing finale.
Yeah.
I mean, he's always been a solid champion. Even when he was WWE champion, he was solid with the promos and everything. He's got the look of a wrestler, kind of. He's just a smaller guy, though.
Yep.
He's good in the ring. He's good on the mic. But I don't think they're going to put it on Miz because of Ryback and his push that he's getting.
I think that it's so good that they're giving Ryback this opportunity because who knows how long Daniel Bryan would have held that belt. If the rumors are true, they were probably going to go with Cena and Bryan in a unification match at SummerSlam. Then we never would have gotten that beautiful match that was John Cena and Seth Rollins.
Right.
And then next up, we had another Beat the Clock challenge match, which was legitimately nothing. It was Charlotte and Brie Bella. Charlotte beat Brie, clocking in at 1:40, which beat Becky's time. And then Paige would need to beat Sasha Banks by a time of 1:40 to get the shot at Nikki's title. I mean, honestly, if you're going to give us more 1-minute Divas matches, who cares? And my computer just decided to throw a hissy fit, and I apologize for that if you heard that. So, what do you think about having another 1:30 long Divas match? I mean, I know it's Beat the Clock challenge, but...
I mean, yeah, that's... they could have easily cut out a couple segments or a couple matches from the males if you really want to push the Divas, because... Well, I know we're not there yet, but with the Paige and Sasha match, I thought they really buried Sasha.
Yeah, I mean, the fans, they're not even helping the cause. Where were they tonight? Miami?
Tampa.
Tampa, and they weren't into it. They weren't really into anything. And when you have a crowd like that, it just absolutely kills the feel of a show. That's why when you go to a city like a Brooklyn, who we don't always see Monday Night Raws, and even these triple header that they just did, which was absolutely fantastic. And the crowds were hot all 3 nights in a row. I mean, except for Raw, they kind of dragged on a little bit. But, I mean, I think that I get my point across there by saying that these smaller crowds in these smaller cities are kind of hurting the shows in a way.
Yeah, but, I mean, you can't always go to a Brooklyn and a Miami and Los Angeles and places like that. You have to stretch it out and give people an opportunity, even though they're not the best crowds, because every city has a diehard fan base. It's just more cities have more of them. So I guess you could say that, but I don't see any way they change that and make it exclusively the hardcore fan cities.
Right.
Because, it's not really fair, and that's not really good business practice.
But what they could do is they could explore even smaller towns. Like, I know around here we have, the Carrier Dome up in Syracuse, and whatever stadium, arena that they have in Albany. And I feel like those crowds would be hot because we don't get wrestling all too often. Exactly.
So, I mean, if they bring it to places that aren't, because once in a while, people get bored with things just naturally. So if something's so often at the same place, people are going to get bored with it, and they're not going to be as hot. For example, SummerSlam was never anywhere for the past couple years besides Los Angeles. And they brought it back to Brooklyn, and you saw how hot the crowd was. NXT didn't leave Florida for a long time, go to Brooklyn, the crowd was hot. And then even Raw, night after SummerSlam, never had that before, and the crowd was hot. So you have to explore different options, even if it's just first time ever for a pay-per-view to be there.
Yeah.
That's how you get hot crowds.
And I think that it worked for that triple header, and I think it could work other places. But we got to switch gears here now to the Dudley Boys had a backstage segment talking to Renee Young about why they returned to WWE. WWE. You know, it was what it was. The Dudleys, I'm so freaking excited that they're back. The fact that they're immediately in a program with the top tag team in that WWE tag team division today, the New Day, and primetime players, they fell a long way, and I don't think that there's a crash pad at the bottom to save them.
No, I think, especially now, I think before the primetime players, I think there's going to be the Dudley Boys. I think the Lucha Dragons, because of their crowd reactions with the high-flying offense and the chants, they're going to get a big push pretty soon. So, I mean, they're always going to be third, fourth in line, but, I mean, in the tag team division, it's really only 2 people or 3 people. The highest the tag team division's ever been only had, 3 teams, Edge and Christian, Hardys, and Dudleys?
Yeah, pretty much. And, you know, then you would have, like, your jobber fodder and whatever.
Right, yeah.
And then, you know, we get, in our next match, a really good Cesaro and Kevin Owens match. It kind of started out a little bit slow in the beginning, but once they got into their big spots and, you know, the Cesaro deadlift off the corner, and these guys, they're just absolutely fantastic together. What did you think about this match? I know you liked it. Get into some of the different aspects of it that you liked.
I really enjoy Cesaro selling. I legitimately thought he was hurt because even
when he fell into
when he was on the apron and then Kevin Owens knocked him off, he went flying into the announce table.
Yep.
Hit his ribs before he hit his hands, and I legitimately thought he was hurt because the way he landed. But he is really good at selling. I didn't really notice that before. He made me think that he was injured, and the way he sold it too, because he, even on the pop-up powerbomb, he didn't even go as high as you normally should.
Right. So he was like selling that he couldn't jump up because his ribs were hurt.
Right, yeah. So I think that part of it I really enjoyed from Cesaro. He's getting over, however, that crowd, I think, kind of killed him.
Right, and that goes back to the smaller crowds thing, and like all these different backwater places, like the infamous Corpus Christi, Texas, where you couldn't get over anything. You could have Elvis and Tupac and Biggie all come back, and then you still wouldn't get more than 3,000 people in that building. But there were no Cesaro section signs, which made me furious. I looked like a little red teapot about to explode. We had another backstage segment with Dolph Ziggler talking to Lana, because during the segment there was a segment early in the show with Rusev, or my goodness, can't get my name straight, with Ziggler talking to Renee Young, and Ziggler went back into his locker room, and then Renee Young was talking into the camera, and Summer Rae came out of nowhere and just walked into the locker room. And then we had Ziggler trying to explain to Lana exactly what happened when Summer Rae walked in. He said that Summer Rae walked in and Ziggler came out, and as soon as he saw Summer Rae, he grabbed a towel because he was in the shower or whatever. Too much information, in my opinion. I think that they need to cut back on that awfulness. I mean, that's just my opinion. What do you think?
Well, I mean, they kind of put too much time into that, and like I was saying, you could have took some of the time off of that and put it in the Divas matches. But even for what it was, I think it was decent. It's hard to do stuff like that in the era that they're in because, you know, it doesn't, like, what they say, it's like PG and like what teenagers would say. It's kind of awkward at the same time. It's weird. And so I thought it was pretty decent at best.
I mean, I still think that it was probably the worst segment on Raw, and since the fish thing with Rusev throwing the fish.
Oh, that was weird.
Yeah, that was a wee bit weird. Then we got a really good Dean Ambrose versus Braun Strowman match. Ambrose had Reigns with him. Strowman had Harper and Wyatt. This is Braun's first actual main roster match, and Strowman, he kind of took it to Dean pretty much the entire match. At one point, he had Ambrose outside the ring. Reigns attacked, got the DQ, so Strowman technically wins. And then Strowman started absolutely annihilating Roman Reigns in the ring. Ambrose grabbed a chair hit him in the back with it. He did not sell this chair shot. Ambrose went for a headshot, which is probably like $700,000 million fine, but Strowman blocked it and absolutely demolished both of them. But, well, not really. I mean, he did get Ambrose down. Reigns, he tried to muster some sort of offense. Harper got in the ring, kicked. The worst big boot I've ever seen in my entire life was laid onto Roman Reigns' face. And my goodness. And Wyatt got in the ring, Bray Wyatt, and he gave Roman Reigns' sister Abigail to close off that segment. They didn't even need to have a match. They could have just went out there and had a promo, and I would have been fine with it.
I mean, I wanted to see Braun fight because he didn't have a match yet, and I wanted to. They had the promo thing on SmackDown. I wanted to see him wrestle and see how he could carry himself in a match, and I thought he did pretty well.
Yeah, I think that for what limited experience that he's had, I think he's worked in FCW, done several different things for NXT, and I think he was a Rosebud at one point. And for all the different little things that he's done, he did really well. I think that there was a few sloppy spots, but for the most part, he, like you said, did really well.
And he's not there to be the best technical wrestler. He's there to be a force of nature and just, when he gets tagged in a tag match, just absolutely annihilate everyone in there.
Right. You give Braun Strowman a hot tag, and even in an 8-man tag, 4 of those guys are going down. And then we had another Beat the Clock segment, which was Paige and Sasha Banks. And Paige hit the rampage on Sasha near the edge of the ring. At this point, there's about 30 seconds left, maybe. And the rest of Team Bad rolled Sasha back out. Paige got her back in as there was about 4 seconds left. And she was trying to go for the PTO. And she just looked kind of stupid trying to grab the leg, which was ungrabbable for some reason. So that means Charlotte will face Nikki. And I think it was kind of telling that Charlotte was all happy, and she kind of like went to grab Paige, and Paige shrugged her off. For what it was, I think it was good. And I think that it's nice to see a fresh face going to try to take on Nikki Bella, who has, a Bellatron now, and it's got a countdown of the remaining 14 days on her title reign, which is going to come to an end at Night of Champions, in my opinion, to Charlotte.
I think if anybody wins the title, it should be Sasha. I think that she has the best gimmick. She's not better than Sasha in the ring. I mean, she's not better than Charlotte in the ring, in my opinion, but that's not saying a lot because Charlotte's extremely good and Sasha's right there with her. For me, if I was WWE, I would have booked it. Sasha wins in 1 minute and 40 seconds, interference or whatever, and then Sasha complains how she beat Paige. How come she's not getting a title shot? She beat the clock. And, you could set up a triple threat and then do individual singles matches if you want to extend Nikki's reign and not have it just barely beating AJ.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this really made me upset because they kind of buried Sasha. I mean, she's used to working 20, 30... She can work 20, 30-minute Divas matches that are extremely well. And this, she gets a finisher hit on her in less than a minute. Or a little more than a minute. So, that kind of upset me. But overall, I like how Charlotte kind of had to hide her happiness for her fellow Alliance member Paige, and it showed that you can't please everybody in a stable, especially in something like that. So it did show a little bit of separation in the group, which I kind of enjoyed.
Yeah, I think that Sasha Banks definitely needs at some point to be the Divas champion. There's no doubt about it. She, like you said, she does have the best gimmick out of every one of those divas. I don't think Charlotte's good on the mic. I don't think Becky Lynch is good on the mic. And I don't think Becky Lynch's gimmick is good. So that really leaves Sasha Banks as really the premier NXT diva right now. Because she's got the look, she's got the speech, and she can work. I mean, her NXT title reign, if that is anything to be kind of comparing to, then I think that she would be one hell of a champion. But I'm also excited to see Charlotte as champion because, she's the daughter of Ric Flair. She's extremely good. She's got that awesome figure 4 bridge. So it's just going to be interesting to see how it plays out for these next couple of weeks. and hopefully Team Bad doesn't keep getting buried, because I might have to grow a few more gray hairs, and I might have to buy a little more Rogaine. So, then we had Summer Rae talking to Renee Young, explaining her side of the locker room incident with Dolph Ziggler. And Lana was watching this, and Summer Rae tells Renee that Dolph came onto her and invited her into the shower. And Lana hears it, and she gets all puppy-eyed. And then I thought that was great. She looked so, like, legitimately distraught. But I don't know. That was probably the best part of that entire segment. But I just can't get over this whole. I saw him undress. I saw his little Zigglers. I think it's kind of ridiculous in my opinion. But I don't know. You said that you liked the segment earlier. What did you think about this one?
I enjoyed this one the most. You know, for the situation that they're in, it's kind of hard to do it, and especially with a diva that didn't really get much time before this, with Summer Rae and Lana, who we haven't really seen wrestle yet, and so I think it's kind of hard to do it, especially when you get Dolph Ziggler and Rusev matches like every week, and tag team matches with those two every week. So, I thought the detail was kind of weird, but I like where they're going with it, and I like because it's going to set up perfectly the mixed tag match whenever they decide to do that.
Yeah, the mixed tag match I think is going to be good because Lana's been training, and she's probably going to be better in the ring than Eva Marie. That's probably because I'm a hater. But next up, we had probably the greatest segment in the history of Monday Night Raw, probably ever, even though that's legitimately the biggest exaggeration in the history of ever. The New Day, Big E and Kofi took on the Dudley Boys in a tag team match. Before this, the New Day came out and they were talking about the preservation of tables and how just to remember all of the biggest moments in your life without a table, because you know if the Dudleys broke it, they were talking about getting your big earnings at a poker table, being at Thanksgiving and watching your creepy uncle stare down your girlfriend. I thought that was funny. I laughed for like 8 hours, even though it hasn't even been whatever. And then the match, or you know, we're not even going to get into the match because the New Day pulled out oh my goodness, they pulled out a table which was covered in bubble wrap, and they claimed it to be the last table in the building. And I just started laughing because the bubble wrap table, I thought it was like shiny and metal because you know they have like that clean gold and silver gimmick going on. So that's what I thought was going on. And then the match itself was awesome. The Dudley Boys got Kofi with the 3D after a really cool series of setup moves. What did you think about this? Because I thought it was probably the best thing in the whole show.
I think that Dudley Boys are so good, and the New Day are legitimately the best tag team in that division because they have the same gimmick, the same thing, but that they figure out a way to be so much more corny and so much more hated every single week, and it's hard to do. And even like the little things, like what Xavier Woods did to his hair, like little things like that, it just puts them over so much.
Right, Xavier Woods, instead of having his hair in a big poofy ball, he let it down, and he looks so freaking awesome. I don't even know. But, I mean, you said that right before the main event segment, that once somebody's getting over, it's kind of a pattern now. They bring in somebody, or once somebody that's a heel is getting over as a face, they bring in somebody who's even a bigger face.
Yeah.
Like, with the New Day, they're getting over, and then they bring in the Dudley Boys. With Rollins, he's getting over his face, so they bring in Sting. I think that that's smart to keep the guys that they want heel. But when you have to use a limited guy like Sting on a Seth Rollins match, it's whatever. But I think that the Dudley Boys coming back, working a full road schedule, is probably one of the best things that happened to this company in a while. And then we're going to move on to the main event. Seth Rollins got in the ring, called out Sting, dared him to come out and tell him where he put his statue. And then Stephanie McMahon came out, tells Rollins to stop talking about and comparing himself to Triple H. Rollins focuses and calls out Sting again. This brings out John Cena. Cena invokes his rematch clause for the United States title against Rollins at Night of Champions. Steph hesitantly agrees. Sting comes out and then stands by John Cena. Sting and Rollins will face for their for Cena and Sting both face Rollins for their respective championships at Night of Champions. I think it was a good segment. I think that the matches, or at least one of those matches, is going to be really good. We know which one that is. Sting worked a good match with Triple H at Mania, but it wasn't anything 5-star. In my opinion, it was probably -5 stars. But I don't know. I like where they're going, but I don't like the fact that Seth Rollins is going to have to work twice in one night. So I feel like, I don't know, maybe Triple H comes back and puts a sledgehammer straight through John Cena's temple and takes him out. Something like that. I don't know. What are your thoughts here?
I mean, I like the fact that Seth Rollins has to fight in 2 matches as long as he wins both. Because, you see, if there's one guy who can wrestle 2 matches in one night right now, Seth Rollins is one of them. He's so good in the ring. He has so much stamina, you can tell with all the high-flying moves he does and still able to put on 30-minute matches. He's probably the best in the business right now, in my opinion. And the fact that he has 2 matches, I mean, one of them is probably going to be like, a 10-minute, 15-minute match. That's really setting up a bigger picture, in my opinion, with Triple H and Seth Rollins. But with the John Cena match, it is what it is. It's going to be a good match. And we're going to see how good Seth Rollins really could be when he has to face twice. And it's probably going to be, the 2 matches probably going to be close to an hour, maybe 45 minutes. So we'll see how Seth Rollins does, and hopefully he retains both titles.
I think that the way that they do this on the Night Champions card is they have the authority to come out and say, all right, Seth, we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. We're putting your match with Cena first, and then we're going to have you face Sting in the very last match, just so you have a lot of time to recuperate. But, I mean, I still don't know, like all the specifics and whatnot, but he does need to win both matches. That's what I was saying. You can still have Rollins beat Sting, and then Rollins say, well, Triple H, look, I've done something nobody else has ever done. I'm holding these 2 titles. You never did that. I mean, I'm holding this title, or I'm holding these 2 titles, and I'm the best champion of all time. Are you the best champion of all time? No, you're not. And then Triple H, he's got like a quizzical look on his face or something like that. And then Rollins just goes out and says, I beat Sting and you did too, but maybe you have Rollins go over in a super convincing fashion, like he just tears through Sting. You get Sting as offense, but he tears through Sting and makes him look like freaking chewed up meat that you got from the back of a steakhouse. And I think that is an appropriate way to build up the match with Rollins and Triple H. How would you build up a Rollins Triple H match at this
Rollins
point?
Triple H, I would go very similar to that. Seth Rollins comes out the night after Night of Champions with both titles still, and Sting just says, "You both beat me, but you're still not half the man Triple H is." And then Triple H comes out and says, "Listen, Sting, I know what you're trying to do, and it's not going to work. Me and Seth are too close for that to work." And then Seth says, "Yeah, besides, I mean, even though we both beat you, I didn't need DX to beat you.
And a sledgehammer.
Right. I did it clean, so how am I not half the man he is?" And then Triple H is like, "Slowly roll, I'm still the guy in the business." And, that slowly builds up. They do it slowly, a little bit of rift. I think that could be very beneficial to Seth Rollins.
They could also do the to be the man, you got to beat them man thing, but kind of flip the switch here and have Rollins tell Triple H to be the man, you got to beat the man, because, Rollins is holding the 2 belts.
Oh, yeah, that's clever. I never thought of that.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when you take something that's been used before and you flip it into a different thing, it becomes something completely new. So, I don't know. I'm going to give this Raw, I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10.
6.5?
6.5 out of 10. There wasn't enough in the middle parts to fill what I needed. I mean, I ran down to the gas station, got a coffee, and, I went to the gas station to get gas station coffee when they didn't even have coffee. I had to get a cappuccino. But, yeah, because Raw was just dragging. It was dragging. I think it was kind of bad in some points. So
I think you know, they had a lot of, not a lot, I think they had a lot of, like I said, a lot again. They had good high points, a lot of low points. I give some of the high points, Dudley Boys match, which was kind of sloppy, you know, it was the first match on live television forever. So I give them credit for that. And that's one of the high points too in a sloppy match. I give it a 5.5.
You give it a 5.5?
Yeah.
What did I give it, a 6?
6.5.
So I rated it higher than you did.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, I mean, I think that the negatives outweigh the positives here. But just your final thoughts on Raw. I think that overall, you know, I gave it a 6.5. It was a good show. Not enough to keep me entertained for 3 hours. The build-up to some of these matches that they did was fine. The Divas match set up. I think that the storyline is better than what they actually showed on TV, which was, you know, kind of good. So I think Raw was overall decent show. If there's anything you have to go out of your way to watch the New Days, or when they came out to the ring. Watch their promo. That's the thing that I implore you to watch.
Yeah, that's probably the best part of the show, in my opinion. Besides Sting's promo, that was pretty good too.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that it's kind of telling when the best thing on your show, your 3-hour-long show, is an entrance.
Right. I mean, I would not watch that Raw replay. I would not.
All right, so that's going to do it here for this third episode of the Sheriff's Office podcast. Thank you very much for joining me this week.
Yeah, no problem.
I hope we have you on the show again. It's always interesting having other people's opinions. And speaking of other people's opinions, I want to get your opinions down in the comment section below. So please remember to comment down there, like the video, and smash that subscribe button because that always helps, and it helps more than you probably know. So thank you all for tuning in and listening here. This is it for me, VengeanceHD, and my good friend, Double OG, as we're calling him now. And we will see you guys next Monday for Raw, and that'll be episode 4. So, yeah. I have no clue how to properly end this. So, that's it for me and him. Bye.